Yes, yes, yes. Welcome to show 349. 349. It's mad, isn't it? Today we're going to talk about building an identity, the idea behind it, maybe some of the processes that we go through to do that. A lot of people struggling to know who they are and what they stand for or where they're going. So we discussed that a little bit. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive Show. I'm your host, James Boardman. And if you are coming through at any point, what I want you to do is hit the love heart button down here and just let me know in the comments what you struggle most, or if you have gone through this, what you struggled most when trying to identify who you were, okay? Because we've all been there, we've all gone through this for sure. And it'd be good for you to share your reflections, share your thoughts on this so that other people can learn from it and build some inspiration from it, right? Cool, so we are literally 10 minutes away from getting on a cab. So this is gonna be short, sharp, and to the brief so that I don't miss my transfer to the airport. So when I think about building an identity, the standout story for me was going from a young 23-year-old who was running a McDonald's store, running like a £5 million store, not really feeling very satisfied in life at that young age, and then suddenly watching a film called Black Hawk Down and seeing potentially in front of me through a film what I'd love to be. And when I watched that film, Black Hawk Down, I looked at all of those guys, all of those characters, I know they're actors, but the ethos of the soldier, the brotherhood, the camaraderie, the action, all of that really excited me and ended up like giving me goosebumps and kind of giving me ideas about maybe who I wanted to be in life, right? What I wanted to be, where I was going. It's light, the spring's going. Where I wanted to be. And that led on to me joining the military. That led on me to going to join the Royal Marines, and that ended up being the foundations to my identity today still. And when we went through the military training, which was for 32 weeks, right? 32 weeks of Royal Marine training, it was brutal, mentally, physically and emotionally. The Royal Marine training process created and shaped my mentality. Okay, I was still very young then, and the basic ethos, the basic standards, the basic characteristics of my identity were born through that process, right? And if you fast forward on now, 20 years later, although I'm not in the military, a lot of the characteristics, a lot of the standards, a lot of the foundations that I try to teach men to lead themselves comes from that experience, comes from just watching that film, going through that training, and then creating my own identity based on having foundations, right? So I think the key thing here is there are key principles, there are key characteristics, there are key values that make up me in terms of my identity and who I am and where I'm going. So when you look at yourself and you think, right, I need to build up, who am I? Where am I going with this? I think the first thing to understand is that if you're in that space and you feel that, it's not going to change overnight. Building an identity is a process over a long period of time that takes patience, perseverance, it takes character, it takes self-discovery, it takes failure, it takes winning. So the key thing is, the key word for me for all of those things is a process. There has to be a process in which you can follow where you discover yourself. So that process for me was Royal Marine training for a 32-week period, right? So for some guys, they come into my world and they do the Elite 28. So over a 28-day period, or it's a 5-week period, they go through a process which helps them identify their character, their values, their principles, their view on the world, their view on themselves, where they want to go, how they work and how they're showing up. Some do the Elite 90 then, which is a further 90 days of that training. Some then stay with us in the Elite Brotherhood and are going through a process right now, right, where they're learning about themselves, about their character, about their principles. And to them, that's that 32 weeks of training, but continuation training on themselves, reflection, learning, training. And through all of that, we create that identity. We build up that identity to our wives, identity to ourselves, to our children, and we stand for something, and we build something. We build those standards, those characteristics, those non-negotiables that I spoke about on the last Wednesday show. These things are really, really important when it comes to our own progress, right? These things are really, really important. So how do you start? Well, you start by finding a process. Okay, you start by finding a process. Now, the problem is when people try to do this by themselves, they never stay consistent enough. Okay, because they're by themselves. When it gets tough, or it gets dark, or it gets cold, it's easy to step out. It's easy to step away. And actually what you're doing is identifying yourself as somebody who's not consistent, somebody who can't show up. So there's a missing piece of the jigsaw somewhere. So that's what we need to try and find. Why do I keep breaking? Why do I keep failing? Why do I keep stopping? That in itself is identifying yourself and understanding yourself so much better. Okay? So much better. And, excuse me, and that is that's self-reflection. When I think about me as my identity today and that accountability, that comes from the wife, my coach, myself, my peers, my friends. So I constantly am always identifying myself by asking people what are the, so if you send, here's a good test for you, send this message to the top 5 people that you hang around with the most and ask them to describe you just in 4 separate words, not in a like sentence, but 4 separate words that best describe you. And you'll be so interested in what people come back with. And that almost, right now, lets you know almost who you are in terms of your identity. And it's a powerful exercise to be able to look at and go, well, I'm happy with that. Maybe I should just keep going the way that. Or if you look at those things and you ask them to be brutally honest, and say, I need you to be honest with me here, and you don't like those words that are coming back, then that's when we know that we are not playing out the identity we want to. Part of creating that future vision, that future context in terms of this is how I want to lead my life, this is how I want to lead others, this is how I want to be, this is my one shot at this, right? It's important to make sure that we're living the identity that we want, who we want to be. You should have a picture in your head of that, how you want life to play out, and it should be in your control. We shouldn't be dictating our identity with external factors such as work, such as pressures, such as the uncontrollables, things we can't control. If you're stuck in a job and you're miserable, but you're not doing anything about it, you've only got yourself to blame, because you are more than capable of finding another job, putting in an action plan for the next 3 months to be able to go and find a job, right? If you are unhappy with the way that you look physically, that's your responsibility. Your identity should be one of, right, I want to lose 2 stone. I want to be more attractive to my wife. Again, that's identity. Everything we do is identity. And often a byproduct of our identity shows in our physical form, our mental form, our emotional form. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense to everyone? So what I want people to do now at the very end here is give me their number 1 takeaway. Their number 1 takeaway from some of the things that I've said. And I want you to stick it in the comments directly below. And if you're not already with us and you want a process to follow, our best offer ends on Sunday night to come and work with us on till June 2023, to the end of June 2023. That's 6 months. You start the programs from start of January, but between now and the start of January, you do a lot of prep work with all of our elite brothers in our brotherhood, where we're preparing for 2023. Okay, that link is on this bio, or it's somewhere in the description. It's somewhere where the copy is. All right, guys. Have a great day. I will see you when I'm back in the UK Monday morning, ready to go. Next week we've got the Rise to Thrive seminar in Birmingham. I think we've got about 120 men coming up for the day. It's going to be an action-packed day. Really looking forward to that. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you soon.